What's up, fellas? In the first video of the day, we're going to be talking about DeMar DeRozan free agency stuff. There's some rumors and some reports that came out yesterday that basically say that he's going to be looking at a lot of different options. It's not a lock that he returns to San Antonio. It's not even clear if they want to retain him. There's no specific destination in mind for him, but we're going to kind of talk about his free agency as a whole because I think he's a really, really interesting case as we go into this offseason. But really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every single day on this channel, so it's most consistent NBA content on YouTube. If you're new here, by the way, what's up? My name is Tucker. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well, and you can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below. With those things said, let's talk about DeMar DeRozan and his free agency. So again, kind of put the headline up on screen here, but yesterday this report came out that said that he's going to be pretty open. He's going to explore a lot of different options in free agency, which isn't necessarily surprising, just kind of given the situation that he's in. San Antonio is not a bad place for him to be, but I think you could definitely make the case that his options there in terms of growth within that team, as well as the opportunity for a title, of course, limited. And, the direction is a bit unclear there. LaMarcus Aldridge is no longer there. Are they going to start going towards the young guys? What's the future of Pop as the head coach? Is he going to retire? Just a lot of question marks there. Not that he won't return to San Antonio, but just that it makes sense for him to explore what will probably be a significant amount of options for him in the offseason. And the other question to ask here about DeMar DeRozan is not only, what is his value as a free agent, but is he possibly the best free agent on the market this upcoming offseason, assuming that someone like Kawhi Leonard decides to stay in LA. If you take Kawhi out of the equation, is there a bigger name free agent on the market? Not that I can think of, but is he the best free agent? I don't know. I think that's questionable. I think this is a guy that is going to be pretty polarizing in terms of what his free agency value is, amongst people that are trying to figure this kind of stuff out. I think you can make the case that he is still, a $20+ million a year guy. And I think in other situations, depending on the team or depending on how the cap space stuff works out this offseason, it could be significantly less than that, depending on the years and things like that. So I think ultimately his destination kind of depends on his priorities here. This guy that's never won a title, this guy that's had limited playoff success in Toronto. And if he wants to experience playoff success, and if he wants to, potentially have a chance to win a title, there are options out there where, potentially the Lakers could finesse something and try and figure out a way to bring him in free agency on, a discount, of course. They wouldn't be able to offer him a full max. He's a guy that has been linked to LA in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised at all for that to be an option he would explore. The Clippers aren't really an option there, but the Lakers would be, and then on the other hand, if he wanted to maybe have a bit more of an offensive role, really get paid, there are other options out there for him as well. Potentially Orlando, a team that I've talked about before in a previous video where they're kind of hitting the reset button, but they have the opportunity in free agency to go out and get someone. They've been linked to DeRozan in terms of a trade in the past. A team like the New York Knicks certainly could be an option. And always there's, potential sign and trade craziness as well. I would kind of throw Miami in there as well, potentially, as they're kind of one of the other big teams in free agency, and then Dallas as well. So pretty much any team that has a significant amount of cap space in this offseason is going to have a need, to bring in another big name player, and DeMar DeRozan certainly would kind of fit that role, right? Ultimately, I think it's difficult to predict at this point, again, just not knowing kind of what his preference and what his priorities are. It kind of seems like the goal would be to go to a good team, potentially win a title, maybe not lean all the way into going somewhere like the Lakers, despite the fact that it is an LA thing for him, just because it kind of feels like that'd be too much, to give up in terms of a role and things like that, and potentially money as well. But maybe a team like Dallas, a team that consistently, is in the hunt for free agents and then typically has to kind of settle for some of the second tier guys in the past, making offers to Kemba Walker, Chris Middleton, guys like that, ultimately getting DeAndre Jordan a few years ago. Maybe DeMar DeRozan is exactly the kind of guy that they would want to bring in, to kind of play alongside Luka, bring them some perimeter creation that I definitely think they need. That's a Mavs team that, by the way, we're going to be talking about in the second video of the day. But the thing that really makes DeRozan interesting as a free agent to me is, again, that variability in his potential value. And I think that speaks to the game that he brings to the table. I think we can all agree that DeMar DeRozan is a guy that can really score. He can get to the rim, is really good in the mid-range, and has evolved over the last couple of years in San Antonio as a facilitator and as a playmaker as well. It's not something he was bringing to the table a ton in Toronto, but he's done more of that in San Antonio, and he's having a good year. The question, of course, is, in a league that is predicated so much now on spacing, can you afford to not only have DeMar DeRozan be as big a part of your team as he is probably going to be, and be a focal point at times offensively when he is not a guy that can, shoot threes, But also when you're putting in that much value and you're paying so much, 20 plus a year for a guy that again cannot shoot, cannot space the floor, and off the ball, yes, there are things he can do. He can cut, again, decent playmaker. But like, for example, if he goes to Dallas, Luka's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Is it going to be a situation where DeRozan has to like run off the bench, or, is it going to be an issue for them, the fact that he won't be shooting threes, or is he going to be able to evolve his game and figure out a 3-point shot? He's kind of messed with that at certain points in his career, but it's never become a consistent part of his game. And so ultimately, I think that there are going to be people in the comment section of this video advocating for like a $10 million a year deal for DeMar DeRozan. And then there are going to be some people that think he's still a near max guy, depending on the free agency context of everything going on this offseason. So that's one of the reasons that I think he is such an interesting free agent. For me, I'm kind of more towards the middle here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a deal over $20 million a year, depending on, how many different teams are bidding for him. But I think it's going to be pretty close to like the 15 to 20 range, depending on the years, depending on the situation, depending on the team he goes to, of course. And again, it's really difficult to kind of, gauge all that stuff so far away. But ultimately, it's just going to come down to a team's evaluation of not only, how much of an issue is the lack of spacing going to be, but also how badly do we need a guy that can score and facilitate to where it's not as big of a deal that he can't shoot if he's going to be the primary guy on a team, aka New York, aka, Orlando. It's not that big of a deal that he can't shoot because he won't be off the ball as much as he would be in a place like, for example, Dallas or, for example, LA. So all those things are going to be coming into the equation, not to mention the fact that it's possible that he stays in San Antonio and they want to retain him in free agency. You would think that they do want to keep him because of the fact that they didn't try and trade him at the trade deadline. Generally, that indicates a willingness to retain a player in free agency. Otherwise, they would have tried to get value out of him. The other wrinkle to that is that the fact that they didn't move him might not necessarily support this idea that they want to retain him, but potentially could support this idea that he is not as valuable of a player as we think, and maybe they looked at trade options and they weren't really intrigued by any of them, which would point to a lower contract offer, a lower market for DeMar DeRozan in the offseason than you would expect. Given all of those factors, I think he's going to be one of the biggest names in free agency this summer, but I don't necessarily think that he is going to be one of the biggest targets. There's going to be 2 or 3 teams involved in trying to go out and get DeMar DeRozan, but I don't think that there's going to be this huge market for him. If I had to predict something right now, I would guess he would probably end up somewhere like either LA or potentially New York, or he goes back to San Antonio. As we get closer to the offseason, of course, it'll be much easier for me to predict these kinds of things. But what I'm interested in is what you guys think down in the comment section below. Are you a believer in DeMar DeRozan as a guy that still needs to be making a lot of money and can be a positive contributor, on a championship level team? Or are you more on the side of this guy is going to be, a bit of an issue when it comes to playing with other really good players, and his main role is going to be as an offensive facilitator, as a guy that's going to be having the ball in his hands a lot, and his inability to space off the ball is going to be an issue in a lot of different systems, and as a result, his value might be suppressed simply because of an inability to make 3-point shots. Or, there's plenty of other options there as well. Maybe you believe in his ability to improve as a 3-point shooter. Maybe you believe in a certain team's ability to put a system around DeRozan that works, or you think he's good enough that it's not a big deal if he is the primary guy in a team. Certainly don't mean any disrespect here to DeMar DeRozan. He is still a very good player, but I think in contrast to some of the other free agency situations this offseason, there is a lot of variability. And I think ultimately that is what makes DeMar DeRozan an interesting free agency case. Is it's going to be a weird offseason regardless. Money is going to be weird for different teams. The salary cap is going to be weird for different teams. There is money out there, but maybe, because of the limited amount of, big name or high value players out there, maybe some guys get bigger. There's just so many variables, and more so than I would say any summer I can remember in the last 4 or 5. There's just it's just very difficult to predict exactly what's going to happen. As uncertainty is kind of the theme of professional sports in general right now in the States. That definitely extends to salary cap stuff, to free agency stuff this offseason. So that's kind of why I'm interested in what you guys are thinking, about DeRozan here. Of course, I'm always interested in what you guys have to say, but specifically for this one, I want to know where you guys are at. Is DeRozan a guy that's going to be a big name free agent? Is he going to be signing a discount deal? Is the LA thing a real thing? Is he going to go back to San Antonio? Is there a sign and trade situation here? All those things are things that I am interested in seeing what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. But yeah, that is going to be the end of the first video of the day, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. As I said in the beginning, you can check out more videos from me. I upload twice a day, every single day on this channel. There's boxes on screen you can check out. Second video of the day later today, we'll be talking about the Dallas Mavericks, what potentially they could offer in terms of a threat as a postseason team here as we get down the stretch, as they are playing better recently. And yeah, with all those things said, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.